This morning, we got the terrible news. Terrible news that we did expect, but unfortunately, even when you expect it, it doesn't help when you get it. And that is that the Supreme Court has seriously disappointed us for the second time in as many days. And that is today, we got the ruling on birthright citizenship. And the birthright citizenship, as they have upheld it, as if you can walk across the border, pop out a baby on your way over, as soon as that foot crosses the line, and that baby is now a citizen. I'm not even joking. That's what the ruling says. It's insane. It makes no sense. The good news out of this, if there is to be any, as many people thought this would be a 7-2 ruling. It was 5-4 or 6-3, depending on how some people interpret one of the dissents, which means that there's an open challenge for it in the future. See, in the Supreme Court, unless the ruling is very strong majority, they often feel like they can revisit in a few years with a newer Supreme Court. That's the one silver lining out of this. The other thing that is important to recognize is that this really doesn't change anything. We've been acting as if this is the law of the land for a long time. So I just want to make that clear. This doesn't change anything except for it now has put it in the public discussion, and we were hoping we'd get some sanity. But unfortunately, Barrett's and Roberts have done exactly what they did with the mail-in ballot order. They jumped ship. And so officially is that the Supreme Court ruled the 14th Amendment guarantees birthright citizenship to children born in the United States, including those whose parents are in the country unlawfully or only temporarily, striking down President Trump's executive order. The ruling is here, but there really isn't much to get into. There's nothing special. I will say that the Alito and Thomas offered very strong opposing orders. Now, here's a quick little breakdown from Tim Pool, who's very animated about this. And I'll tell you, Tim Pool is blackpilling bad right now. And I'm not blackpilling, but I do want to give you guys the way he sees it.
The court has stricken down the executive order on birthright citizenship. Trump loses. If you are from China and a Communist Party member, your child born in Guam can be president of these United States. Now, we're still waiting for the full breakdown. We do have, I believe we've got this right here for the official ruling. So let's. I'm going to copy this. We're going to copy it all, and I'm going to load it in and get a quick summary with our friend Claude over here to break it down, to give us the gist. This could be a narrow ruling. It's 194 pages. And Gorsuch, this is surprising. I thought it was going to go 7-2. Quick summary from our friend Claude. Supreme Court decision in Trump v. Barbara, a fractured ruling. 5-4. Whoa, wait, what? That's not 5-4. They said it was 6-3, right? What? Hold on. Oh, they have separate dissenting opinions. Wow. 5-4. Children born in the United States to parents who are unlawfully or temporary present are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. So this is a little bit more broad. And citizens at birth under the 14th Amendment. Ladies and gentlemen, get the clips out, get the tweets. You have no country. The court therefore affirms the injunction against executive order. Roberts wrote for the majority, joined by Sotomayor, Kagan, Barrett, and Jackson. There's Barrett, notably crossing the usual ideological lines. This is Kavanaugh concurs in judgment and dissents in part. Interesting. They're calling it 6-3. But why are we getting? Why is Claude telling me it's 5-4? Claude's always wrong, right?
Tim's nothing if not entertaining. And listen, I know a lot of people are critical of Tim. I think in general, Tim still does a good job of breaking down news stories. It's not always his opinions I agree with, but in general, he does a pretty good job staying on top of things. Now, Tim did say this, and I actually did not report this yesterday, and I should have. Last month, Amy Coney Barrett was swatted. What is a swatting? It's when you take somebody's address and you call it in as if there's a crime occurring that's an emergency. And so a SWAT team shows up to your house very violently, very aggressively, because they don't know if you've got a gun or not. They don't know what's happening. So they come in, and sometimes very dangerous things can happen with a SWAT team. It's very scary. It's one thing to have a cop show up at your door. It's another thing to have the SWAT team. So somebody was putting pressure on Barrett as of last month. This is pretty obvious. Now, Barrett and Roberts have now jumped against Trump 3 major times. Number one was with his tariffs. Now we have birthright citizenship and the mail-in ballots. This shouldn't surprise anybody, but it makes it more and more clear that Barrett and Roberts, because they are conservative most of the time, and we got a couple rulings to back that up here, except for when the things that could hurt the future of our country the most, the biggest shifts in our country, those are the ones they always jump ship on. Ask yourselves why. I think it's pretty obvious. But regardless, the pressure campaign was definitely on. And unlike people like Kavanaugh, Thomas, Alito, who have not caved to extreme pressure campaigns, Barrett and Roberts show that they are continually able to be gotten to. And I don't think that's even a question at this point. Why else side with the 3 insane liberal justices? It just makes no sense. Now, Alito and Thomas came out and they had some things to say about this today.
Back to Shannon, who's got more yet again. Shannon.
All right, this comes from Justice Alito, who brought this up during the arguments. This is his separate dissent. He says the court's interpretation also has national security implications. Suppose that a person's only connection to this country is that he was born here to a mother who was present just long enough to give birth and then quickly return to her native country. Suppose that country is a strategic adversary or enemy of the United States. Suppose the child never visited the United States while growing up and was inculcated with hatred of this country. According to this court now, that person is a citizen of the United States. He can enter and leave the country as he pleases. He can travel the world on a United States passport. Even if he plots to harm this country, he cannot be deprived of his status as a citizen, at least under current precedent. He goes on to say that this decision today also provides a powerful incentive to enter or remain in this country illegally. He goes on to say, in my judgment, the court has made a mistake that will seriously affect the country's future. So some very pointed dissents here from those who raised these very big concerns during the arguments. And they're real world scenarios, which are not a fantasy. They're not a movie. I mean, these things that can actually happen now under this ruling that you have today from the majority.
Alito, as usual, is right on. And then Thomas had his dissent as well.
Back to Shannon Bream for the view from Justice Thomas, who was a dissenter here. Shannon.
Yeah, in his dissent, he gets to that point, Bill, that you're making there. The 14th Amendment was enacted in the wake of the Civil War, quote, with the one pervading purpose of securing equal citizenship for the freed slaves. He writes, it was enacted, as Justice Harlan wrote, to secure to a race recently emancipated the civil rights that other citizens enjoyed. So Thomas has always been about that was the purpose of the 14th Amendment. He goes on to say that the court, meaning the majority now, has repurposed the 14th Amendment to protect its own set of preferred rights that the Reconstruction Congress never contemplated and that cannot find support in the text. Today, the court does so by recognizing a constitutional right to citizenship for the children of all foreign birth tourists and illegal aliens. Uses very specific language there. Again, Justice Thomas adhering and agreeing with the government's argument, with which they made here very passionately, that the 14th Amendment was about protecting the children of freed slaves and not what we've come to understand it as. You see his language there. He mentions birth tourism. It came up in the arguments, and clearly that's a very big concern of the dissenters. We also have dissents by Justice Alito and others, so we'll read those as well.
They're absolutely right. I mean, and listen, Thomas and Alito are national treasures, and we need 6, 7 of them on the Supreme Court. It's very difficult to get, as time has shown. We've had several Republicans appoint Supreme Court justices, and many of them have been extreme disappointments. It's kind of amazing that 2 out of 3 from Trump's have been great. Gorsuch and Kavanaugh have been pretty amazing. Barrett obviously is a big disappointment, and you know, Barrett got through barely at the end of Trump's first term, when the 2020 election had already been decided. He was a lame duck, and the deep state had taken back control. And so he did what he could. And people don't remember how hard it was to even get Barrett through. So, you You do what you can. It would have been Barrett, or Biden would have gotten to appoint 2 Ketanji Brown Jacksons. So context matters. Barrett sucks, but she sucks less than Ketanji Brown Jackson. That's just a fact. And we wouldn't have gotten other wins if she wasn't there. However, she continues to screw us on some of the things that matter most. But it's not all over. It's not all over. And President Trump shared this story today from Just the News. He shared this on his Truth Social account. And I think it's important to look at contextually here. It says Trump's efforts to reverse birthright citizenship may succeed with or without SCOTUS. And I want to go through a little bit here. This is John Solomon's paper. And it says Supreme Court's expected to rule Tuesday in Trump versus Barbara, which now we know they did. But let's go down to the bottom here. Several bills, most notably Birthright Citizenship Act, introduced by Babbitt and Lindsey Graham one day after Trump's inauguration in 2025, seek to end or sharply restrict automatic birthright citizenship by amending the Immigration and Nationality Act. These measures would reinterpret the 14th Amendment subject to the jurisdiction thereof clause. So that is one thing they're working on. Now, is it going to get through in this Congress? Probably not. The Senate is awful. They're awful. I'm just being honest with you guys. However, interesting things can happen after the midterms. So we'll wait and see what happens there. Now, the numbers here matter. Center for Immigration Studies estimates 225,000, 250,000 births to illegal immigrants occurred in 2023, 7% of total U.S. births. That's a lot of babies. Now, Trump is getting rid of a lot of these illegals, and so these numbers are going to go significantly down, even with this ruling. So, but that tells you where we were at. We were looking at about 225 to 250,000 people a year getting birthright citizenship. That's insane. Birthright tourism, which is a little bit less than you'd think based on how people are freaking out about it. But it was about 50 to 100,000 a year. That's still a lot. That's still a lot. Okay. It's terrible. There's 1,000 birth tourism companies. Now, one thing the Trump administration is doing, though, is cutting this down. They're closing down these companies. They're going after them. They're shutting it down. Basically, what this comes down to is that there are bills they're fighting to get this birthright tourism outed by some of the good senators. And surprisingly, Lindsey Graham is one of them on this. It could eventually happen because they based everything on the fact of what the Supreme Court based everything on the fact that it says jurisdiction of. And the Supreme Court just interpreted that as jurisdiction means, yeah, even if you're born here, you're under our jurisdiction, which is a crazy ruling, but whatever. Even if you're born to illegals, you're under a jurisdiction of. That's crazy, but that's what they just decided. And that's what's been the law for about, 100 years. So you change the definition of jurisdiction, the Congress can do that, and all of a sudden this goes away. So there's hope. The other hope is that right now, they shut down, the deportations ramp up. The coming over of illegals is already basically zero. And you shut down all this birther tourism. You make it so a pregnant woman can't even come over here. There are ways to slow this down significantly. The problem is it only works as long as we still have a Republican in charge, or at least a strong MAGA type Republican. But there's hope is my point. There's hope. And one of the reasons there's hope is because this is in the populist face now. This has been, guys, my whole life growing up, the idea of birthright citizenship was just a given. We didn't even think twice about it. That's just what it was. So think about how far we've come since then. Now most Americans are against it. We're starting to stand up. The tide is turning. Eventually, I don't believe this will last forever. I don't. But it might be a 50-year fight like Roe v. Wade. It might be a 5-year fight. It might happen next year. We might get a MAGA Congress. We might sweep the midterms. Who knows? But the point is there's hope. And if you give up hope, you're in a bad place. Now, Here are some of the reasons I have hope. Ron DeSantis, who I got to say, guys, I think DeSantis is starting to set himself up for a presidential run, and this time might be different. This time might be different, especially if J.D. Vance steps down. I think DeSantis and Rubio would be a very interesting primary, but we'll see. And I don't mean step down for vice president. I mean step down from running. But Governor DeSantis is very strong on the immigration issue. He just came out and fired back a group of Florida GOP sheriffs asking Trump to slow down mass deportations. Here is DeSantis. And by the way, this isn't just DeSantis. This is many red state governors. This is spreading, okay? Trump has started something. It's not the end. Trump is not the end of this movement. This is the beginning. Listen.
When it comes to immigration, one size doesn't fit all. Where do you stand on that?
I stand with following Florida's policies, which has said you can't have a situation where Biden can bring in 10 million people and then we're not allowed to remove them back to their home country. This idea that unless you're an axe murderer, you should be able to stay, that is not consistent with our laws, and it's also not good policy. You know, we have different people that are victimized by illegal aliens every day in this country. Not all of them have criminal records at the time. In fact, probably most of them don't. But under some view, it's like, okay, yeah, you come illegally, and then you stay until you commit a really violent crime. That just doesn't work. It's incoherent. It's not what the president ran on. And so to send a letter to him asking him to go back on his campaign policies, I would not advise that to be done. I think the way that we've done it in Florida is a whole host of things, but working with the federal government to help bring more removals to bear when they had limited resources. They have more resources now because they got an influx of money. And so, and you'll be seeing some of that, I think, in play in Florida as well as up across the country.
I got to say, I've been very skeptical of DeSantis since he primaried Trump. But more and more, I'm thinking he made a mistake. I think he believed the establishment wing of the Republicans who came over to him and were like, trust us, we will back you and you can beat Trump. Trump's done. He has no future. And I think DeSantis, riding high from his massive 2022 reelection, where he won reelection by 20 points, I think he was thought to himself, you know what? I can do this. I'm going to go for it. And he got bad advice and he believed it and he got humbled big time. And I've been skeptical of DeSantis ever since, but I'm telling you, he's batting almost 1,000 since Trump came back. And I'm starting to think he saw the light and he realized the error of his ways. And I'm at the point now where I'm not against DeSantis running again if Vance or Rubio don't run. So we have a bench, guys. We have 3 awesome people. And, this man he's fighting he's been fighting establishment Republicans at every turn. They just abolished property tax in Florida because of DeSantis leading the charge. They just redistricted Florida because of DeSantis leading the charge. He has proven himself time and time again. So I'm going to still watch him carefully the next couple of years. Don't get me wrong, but he's starting to win me back. And, his governorship has just been too strong for me to ignore. So we'll wait and see. But the other thing we got to wait and see is who backs him, because that will be a big tell. Regardless, what he's saying here is absolutely right. Now, Seth Keshel, who is always great at this stuff, comes up to say the only solution for this is to make it so difficult to get in here it's next to impossible to have an anchor baby. And that's exactly what Trump, DeSantis, and MAGA Republicans are planning on doing. So, again, there's hope. There's always a way to fight back despite how bad it looks. Regardless, we did get some other wins today, and this is important. We have to celebrate the wins even when we take on losses. Today, the Supreme Court upheld the laws against trans kids in sports, at least identifying with their chosen gender. It's a big win. It's a massive win for the culture war. It's a massive win for women, especially young girls who've been getting hurt by these kids, getting their medals taken away, their records taken away. This is a big deal. As a father of 4 daughters, I'm very happy they did this. And it was 6-3 and overwhelming decision. So this now changes the course. Red states now, who might have been afraid of it being overturned or challenged, all can put in laws, and this becomes a thing where we just had a big win that'll sweep the nation. So again, it's not all bad. And then we got this, and this one's a little more nuanced, but very interesting. In a 6-3 vote, Supreme Court struck down federal limits on how much political parties can spend in coordination with their own candidates. Ruling restrictions violate the First Amendment, overruling its 2001 decision, Colorado Republican 2. Why is this a big deal? And now I know there's going to be some people who are like, campaign finance, oh my God, no, limit them, get money out of politics. Well, if you watch this show, we have demonstrated many times, money doesn't win elections, but it can tip some over. And the thing is here, the people who want to control the spending are the losers. They're the people who know they can't compete, and so they want it all equal, mostly speaking as Democrats. The Democrats have long wanted this to be limited, and some even want the government to fund it, which means if you apply to be president, to be a nominee for president or Congress or whatever, the government would tell you, okay, here's 100,000, here's 100,000, that's all you guys get. Well, what if one candidate's much better and many people want to give them money? That is now taken away. That's what the Democrats want. Thankfully, the Supreme Court has overruled this. This is very good for Republicans going forward. This means they can get out their message more, they can push harder, and Democrats often get more money because they do it shady. But the Republicans, who tend to follow the law a little more, this gives them equal footing now where we can compete better. So it's a big win. Trump calls this one out. Supreme Court just took restrictions off political spending. Big win for Republicans, and more importantly, the First Amendment. So Trump is very happy about this one. And it's funny because we're all upset over mail-in ballots and birthright citizenship. Rightfully so. Rightfully so. But I got to tell you, I think Trump expected these, and he's more focused on the wins, especially the one we got yesterday where Trump now can fire all the bureaucrats. And I got to tell you guys, they're squeaming over there over this one. Barb McQuaid says, a slaughter case overturning precedent returns us to a spoils system where a president can clean house every 4 years, destroying our professional independent civil service. Democrats are very mad. Why? Well, they're very mad because this is how they keep power. This is how they undermine presidents. They create a massive bureaucracy of unelected bureaucrats and officials who could not be fired, whose positions could not be removed by the president. And those people would stay there, president after president after president. And it would just keep getting bigger and keep fighting. And I got to tell you, this means the house can be cleaned. And you got to understand, that is their biggest power. It's also where they get most of their money. It's a nonstop slush fund for Democrats in high positions. Now, this case that got turned yesterday is a massive one. And Trump was very happy about it. Now, here's some interesting insights. Legitimate and weighty questions from Gorsuch in Trump versus Slaughter concurrence. Bottom line, the branches haven't done what they're supposed to do and have done way more than they're supposed to do. People, they don't want you seeing this, guys. They don't want you seeing this. They want you focused on the mail-in ballots, which sucks, but it was already happening. They want you focused on birthright citizenship, which is terrible, but was already happening. Those things didn't change anything. This does. This is a massive change and a massive win. It means they have to start over because now Trump, instead of them keeping those people in power and coming back into power and just having those same people working with them again, they have to restart every time. This is a very good thing for slowing down the regulation state. Gorsuch writes, To fulfill his constitutional duty, meaning Trump, to ensure the laws are faithfully executed, the court holds president must have the ability to remove principal officers who exercise executive power in his name. That includes those who run independent agencies like the Federal Trade Commission. With all this, I agree. But I can't ignore the implications that follow. Today, independent agencies don't just exercise executive law enforcement powers. Congress delegated them vast legislative and judicial powers, effectively allowing these agencies to make laws and decide disputes under them. And after today's decision, the president can effectively exercise all those powers too. That's a big deal. It's a development that raises important questions, not least these. Would Congress have delegated so much power, including legislative and judicial power, to independent agencies had it known president would come to control them? Let me read that one again. Would Congress have delegated so much power, including legislative and judicial, to independent agencies if it knew the president would come to control them? In other words, Gorsuch just called out Congress for creating a bunch of agencies that could undercut the president's power. Would they have done that if they knew the president would get this power? I'm guessing no. He calls them out, and now they lost it. How will Congress respond now if it can? And what, if anything, will this court do about it? Very interesting. The court has ruled all this power is now the president's. Oh, buddy. Here's a great breakdown of what just happened. Cynical Publius writes this: Trump versus Slaughter, disempowering the Leviathan. The American left is predictably outraged by the SCOTUS decision today in Trump versus Slaughter. Why? It neuters their primary power base. You guys been blackpilling? Who's blackpilling? Holy smokes. This is great news. Great news. The unelected, bureaucratic, tyrannical Leviathan of the federal administrative state, the same cabal that decides for us what kind of light bulbs we're allowed to own, what kind of medical care the average American is allowed to have when we get old. Democrats are basically claiming this case allows the president to fire any federal employee, reinstating the spoil system, but that's not true. It's a comparatively narrow holding that allows the president to fire some FTC commissioners and the heads of similar independent agencies at will for policy or political reasons. Rank and file federal employees are still protected by Civil Service Reform Act, but that doesn't matter as much. It is not entirely unreasonable to see Trump versus Slaughter as a first step in series precedents giving broader powers over all federal employees. If you took American Government 101 as a college freshman, you may remember being taught the spoil system was a horrible tragedy. We'll jump ahead here because we don't need to get into that too much. So maybe the civil service was actually a good idea when instituted. Maybe it really was professional once. Maybe it was apolitical once. Maybe it really was independent once. Maybe. According to Grok, in 1883, the entire non-military federal workforce consisted of approximately 130,000 employees. Imagine that. We're now over 2 million. We ballooned over 20 times in 140 years. 1883, there's no federal income tax. Today, the federal marginal income tax is at the top of 37. There's no federal government employee unions. Today, they're one of the most powerful organizations in society. Most importantly, over 90% of federal employee union campaign contributions go to Democrats. It's a slush fund. So let's tie those facts together, shall we? Suppose an independent federal workforce almost exclusively supports Democrats. Their union collects dues paid for by tax dollars of productive capitalist Americans. Those tax dollars are then given to Democrat campaigns. Then those same elected Democrats reach in the bottomless pit of American income tax collections to give money and more benefits. Federal employees and the Democrats scratch each other's backs, and those of us who actually create wealth suffer and pay the price, all while the same privileged, unelected federal employees endlessly create new tyrannical rules that burden our daily lives with unneeded, often unconstitutional rules and regulations. Firing them is virtually impossible. It's the Leviathan. Democrats claim this will reinstate the spoil system. What they ignore is in 2026, the only spoil system is the permanent one of Democratic Party. What Trump versus Slaughter does is restore voter accountability to our federal government. Those unelected bureaucrats can no longer wield power against the electorate, unchecked. Democrats claim to love democracy. All Trump versus Slaughter does is restore democracy, which is why Democrats hate it. I'm telling you, this is a win. Massive win. But they don't want you focused on this, do they? We got another win. This one hasn't been decided yet, but it possibly could be huge. Supreme Court will hear RNC's case defending Arizona's requirement to show proof of citizenship when registering. If the Supreme Court holds this up, it could start, theoretically, depending on the ruling, making voter ID a thing, at least a proof of citizenship to even get a ballot. That's a big win. It's a big win. This won't be decided till next year. However, it's going to be heard, so we're going to get something on that. It's not all losses, guys. Now, in all this, some fake news came out today. NPR posted an article that Alito was going to retire. Except the problem is he's not. Why would they post this? They wanted to really, really disenfranchise you today. They really wanted to discourage you. Several people have already picked up this news and are running with it. The problem is they've already taken down the headline. They've already issued a correction. But why? Ask yourself why. This means they had this ready to go. They dropped it right after the birthright citizenship case. Today was an all-out attack on MAGA, guys. An all-out attack to freak you out, to discourage you, to scare you, to make you think it's all going to fall apart. There's no other explanation for this. This is an outright lie. Isn't crazy? But it's a lie, and it's already been retracted. Now, ask yourself, what are you going to do about all this stuff? I love this from Ben Dindilly. He says, I refuse to panic over any SCOTUS decision. I don't give a F. We're getting our country back one way or another. Absolutely. That's the attitude we need to have. I know mail-in ballots is very discouraging because California, we're watching it right now, how those mail-in ballots are stealing an election from Spencer Pratt, or stole it, I should say. Actually, I can't say that yet because it hasn't been certified, but they're stealing it. They took Steve Hilton out of the running. It's pretty much all but guaranteed now that California's law on this can stand. And so there's pretty much no hope for Steve Hilton to win in November at this point. Other states may adopt that. That's very discouraging. It sucks. We don't want that. But they could have adopted them anyways. It's just kept what already was. There's other ways to win this. The Postmaster General has already told Trump that he in the Senate, he's not going to deliver ballots to those states who don't deliver their voter rolls. Interesting. Voter rolls are the cleanup. You can't deliver ballots if you're not on the voter roll. That's some of the laws that still protect us. That's kind of they've been inflating the voter rolls, not taking people off for decades in order to inflate them so they have cover for sending out more ballots. You remove that cover, you make it much more difficult. There are things happening that can make this better, even though, not going to lie, Supreme Court, if they'd ruled correctly, would have helped us immensely. But it doesn't mean we're going to lose. It just means the battle is still a little bit harder. We're staying in hard mode. You understand? But we were in hard mode in 2024, guys. We were in hard mode. They had all these options available to them. The Democrats were fully in charge in 2024. And guess what? We swept every swing state, took the Senate overwhelmingly, well, not overwhelmingly, but strongly, 53 to 47. We held the House against all odds. We did that in 2024. Guess what? The environment's even better now. The Voting Rights Act was struck down. We have redistricting on our side. That has helped. The Trump administration is now in charge, enforcing voter roll cleanup. Several voter rolls have been cleaned up in many states. That is a good thing. The USPS is saying it won't deliver mail-in ballots in states that don't deliver voter rolls. That is a win. Guys, it is better now than it was in 2024 when we won. So if you're blackpilling, stop it. We're winning still. We are moving forward. Don't give up. Don't quit. Don't cry. It's going to be okay. Nothing has changed. We just wanted more. Rightfully so. But nothing's changed. As far as birthright citizenship, nothing's changed. That's the way the country's been operating for 100 years. You know what is different? We have our focus on it now. The Trump administration can limit it through many other immigration practices and already is. Governors like DeSantis are standing up and enforcing their own borders as well. Governor Abbott, who I'm no fan of, but still, he's doing decent on the border. He's got some things that are good. Other MAGA governors are rising. And guess what? The primaries are proving us we own the Republican Party. We are growing in the Republican Party. They can't stop us. We are taking them down. In this last primary, Trump took out 3 Rhino Republicans who are incumbents. Guess what? In our entire history, that has never happened. We are winning. Oh, and a 4th one is taken out because they chose not to run, and Tom Tillis. We're winning, guys. Do not let these decisions make you think we're losing. Don't crash out like Tim Pool. Here's a good reminder of how you should approach these things. Look back to our founding. 250 years ago, on June 29th, 1776, New Yorkers looked out at the water and saw a nightmare on the horizon. The British fleet had arrived. So many ships filled the bay. Witnesses said the mass looked like a forest of pine trees growing out of the sea. The timing could not have been more brutal. This was the Empire's answer to the rebellion, and it was overwhelming. The first wave of around 45 warships and transports dropped anchor off Sandy Hook and Staten Island, carrying General William Howe and roughly 10,000 troops. Within days, it kept growing. Then his brother, Admiral Richard Howe, arrived with more. It would eventually swell into one of the largest seaborne invasion forces of the entire 18th century. Hundreds of ships and tens of thousands of professional soldiers and German mercenaries aimed at one city. Now, in this timing, while the force of mass filling the harbor, delegates sat down in Philadelphia were in the final days of debating whether to declare independence. They voted for on July 2nd and signed off on July 4th, with all against them. At the exact moment America was being born on paper, the most powerful military on earth was already anchored off its coast, getting ready to strangle in the cradle. The people of New York understood exactly what they were seeing. Alarm bells rang, panic spread through the streets. Soldiers sprinted to their posts to stare at a force they'd almost no hope of matching. Washington's army was outnumbered, outgunned, and about to get badly beaten in the battles for New York that followed. That's the part that gets lost in the fireworks every 4th of July. Independence wasn't declared from a position of strength. Let me say that again. Independence was not declared from a position of strength. It was declared with an enemy armada already sitting on the doorstep, knowing full well what was coming. They signed their names anyways. Hey guys, who's blackpilling? Who's blackpilling? Our founding fathers certainly didn't. Who do you want to be like? Do you want to be like the weak? Those who cowered under the Brits coming, who ran? Think how they felt at that moment. There's no hope. We've lost everything we fought for. It's all going to fall apart. Nonsense. A few brave men inspired 30% of a nation, and we won. Guess what, guys? We can do that again. As Thomas Paine once wrote, if there must be trouble, let it be in my day, so my child may have peace. Good thought, isn't it? Would you rather it happen to you so you can do something about it, or do you want to leave it to your kids, your grandkids? I, for one, I'm ready for this fight, and I'm not scared, and that's why I'm going to keep showing up every single day, and I'm never, ever going to blackpill. And neither is Stephen Miller and the people in charge of our government. By the way, they're much more like our founding fathers than pretty much everybody else out there, even on our side.
You have no idea how determined we will be to save this civilization, to save the West, to save this republic. We built the world that we inhabit now. We are the ones who lift up humanity. We have beauty, we have light, we have goodness, we have determination, we have vision, we have strength. We will make you proud. We will finish the job. We will defeat the forces of darkness and evil, and we will stand every day for what is true, what is beautiful, what is good. And we will achieve victory for our children, for our families, for our civilization, and for every patriot who stands with us. God bless you. God bless our heroes. And God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Amen. You guys ready? You have no idea how determined we will be to save this republic. There it is, guys. This is President Trump's number one advisor. Number one advisor. This is who Trump trusts the most. In other words, this is exactly how President Trump feels as well. So, stop blackpilling, stop dooming, take the hits like a man, take it like a woman. That doesn't sound right. I'm trying to be equal opportunity here. that sounds terrible. But stand up, guys. We got this. We are winning on so many fronts. Don't let a couple bad rulings ruin your vision. Don't let a couple bad rulings ruin your resolve. The wins are here. The right people are in charge. The right people are behind them. We're going to do this. We're going to do this, and we are not letting them come back. We just got a little more of an uphill battle than we thought. But you know what? No matter how bad things are for us, guys, it's nothing compared to what these guys faced on the 4th of July, 250 years ago, when this nation, the greatest nation in world history, was born because a bunch of great men and great women behind them stood up and said, we are going to build something against the most powerful empire in history, and we're going to win. It's worth fighting for. And they got us here. We're nowhere as close to as big a hole as they were in. And so nobody gets the doom pill. Nobody gets the black pill. That's for the weak. If you're black pilling, you don't deserve this nation. That's a fact. So what are we going to do about it? We're going to win. That's what we're going to do.